Are we good, Peter?
Yep.
We're
All
good.
right. All right. Well, welcome everybody to the first meeting of the Publications Board for this year. I'm excited to be serving again as the chair. And we've got a new member and a vice chair, Alan Cobb, who is going to be, like I said, vice chair. And thank you, Alan, for being willing to serve in that capacity. We are going to do some introductions, but first I am going to go ahead and read the ethics statement. Just to remind everybody that it's our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and appearances of conflicts of interest in performing our duties. And as members of the Publications Board and the North Carolina State Bar. If any member of the board is aware of any personal conflict or appearances thereof with respect to the matters before the meeting today or the committee today, please notify us at this time. Is any, okay, so nobody is raising their hands. That being the case, I do want to start off with some introductions, and we'll go through, hang on, I'm getting a pop-up that I didn't want. Okay, we'll go through the list, and what I'd like you to do, just for everybody's benefit, since we have a lot of new people on the board, is when your name is called, just tell us how long you've been on the board. I would like to know if you read the hard copy or the online version of the State Bar Journal. I would also like to know, maybe in 1 or 2 words, your impression of the State Bar Journal, and why you're willing to serve, and what you would do to make it more appealing to readers. So if you want me to read that again, I will, if you didn't write it down, because I know I'm asking you to do a lot, but I do think it's probably valuable to all of us to know what everybody's perception is as we go through and start talking about developing content. This is a good place to start. So Alan, I'm going to put you in the hot seat first.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Alan Cobb. I'm from District 6, that's Pender, New Hanover County. My career was as a Superior Court judge. I retired in 2016. I'm now an emergency Superior Court judge, still handling several cases. I read it, the hard version, because I have a very comfortable chair I like to cozy up in.
All right, do you, Alan, do you read the whole journal? Like, do you read it from front to back?
The I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, help me God. I do not. I read the salacious, interesting stuff, and the articles I have found to always be very good.
Okay.
The rules and those things sort of tax my limit.
Okay. All right. Heidi?
Hey, everybody, I'm Heidi Bloom. I am a counselor from Wake County 10th Judicial District. I'm a family lawyer at Wyrick Robbins. I have no idea how long I've been on the board. 3 years, 4 years? Jennifer, help? I don't know. But I love it. I actually think it's fascinating and intellectually stimulating. And I actually have the hard copy right here. I'm a hard copy girl. I have been a dinosaur as far as adapting well to change as far as technology goes. And I like to touch and bend and go back. So what draws me in, or what might draw people in more? So, you know, looking at it, don't pictures always tell 1,000 words? Like, I wonder if we could have more compelling pictures in the journal. I mean, I know it's not supposed to be a Dr. Seuss book, but I do feel like the material presents as drier than it really is because of everything from sort of the font to the format to the lack of more color popping out at you. There's not a vibrancy there. And then the other thing is I would like to probably see more pieces on our members and lawyers across the state. We're an interesting group of pigeons, and I think that ought to be given a little bit more attention. So
those are good. Yeah, those are good suggestions. So you're when you say members, you mean just any of the state bar, not necessarily council, but any of the attorneys that are.
Yeah, I meant attorneys. I meant
attorneys.
All 30,000 of us. Yes.
Got it. So like feature articles.
Feature articles. Yeah. You know, I don't know when the last time we actually did any sort of article on sort of the council and maybe spotlighting a couple of council members. There's just so many lawyers that don't really know what the council does. I realize we put that out in a lot of different mediums, but sort of back to the drawing in with a face and a picture and a story, I don't know, might resonate with people.
Okay, I think those are good suggestions. I just realized that I didn't officially introduce myself. I know most of you on the board, but I'm Andrea Capua, and I've been on the publications board, which originally was a committee, and then when the communications committee was created, we became a board. So if I refer to it as a committee, it's an old habit, but I've been on it since I started, which was 6 years ago. This is my 7th year. And I have served as the chair prior to this. And I read the hard copy, and interestingly enough, well, Heidi, great minds think alike. I've got it right here at my desk. And I thought the same thing. There were a couple articles there that I thought, oh, I'd love to see a picture of the author. And it was the Dita Kapoor article in particular. I didn't get to see the podcast, but when I was reading the article, I thought, oh, I'd like to see a picture of her. Anyway, let's see. I think once you can start reading the articles, they're actually really interesting. I agree with everything that Alan and Heidi have said so far. We just have to, I think we have to figure out a way and work with Jennifer and we can talk to you about some suggestions, but just figuring out a way to get that first page to draw us in, because once I'm drawn into the articles, I think like, wow, this is a really, I'm reminded, a lot of them I've read already, but they're good articles. So anyway. All right, well, Rich, you are new to the board, so you're next.
Okay, I'm Rich Costanza. I represent the 29th Judicial District. That's Moore County area. I will say I typically read the hard copy of the journal. Historically, I would read immediately to the discipline section, certainly before I became a counselor, and then I'd read Tom's column. At this point, since being on the council, I will read basically cover to cover, with the exception of the substance abuse articles. For some reason, I skip over that. I would like to see more articles kind of dealing with, I guess, like local flavor. I mean, every county, every district has sort of cases that are historic to that region, and I think that would be a value to our members. Kind of like like the Our State magazine, where they, go from county to county and sort of highlight local culture. So I think Bill Power's article certainly, is a good example of that. But we have those cases throughout the state.
Okay. Jennifer, I'm assuming you're writing this down. I am too, but these suggestions are all great so far. All right. Thanks, Rich. Bert, you're next.
Good afternoon, I'm Bert Kemp. I'm the counselor for District 3, which is Pitt County. I think it's District 3. It changes constantly. It's either 3, 3A, 3 something, 3. It seems like every time I turn around, General Assembly's changing something. Pitt County, I'm the public defender. I read the hard copy. I'm a believer that the Bar Journal copy, the hard copy of it will be the last thing that goes digital of every other magazine and periodical that I have and read. I enjoy it. I have a special talent. My talent is that I can pick up the magazine and turn right to the disciplinary section immediately, no matter where it is. Peter and Alice can hide it. They can put it on the first page, the 10th page, the 14th, the 40th. It doesn't matter. It goes right to it. I first identify in that column whether or not I'm in it. And then I identify whether or not any of my attorneys are in it. And then I identify whether or not there's any bar members in it that I know. And then lastly, classmates saying, yeah, I knew it. We knew it, 25 years ago, he was on the edge. I do read the articles. I am with Rich, I believe, in the sense that the yellow pages, I don't read. I used to read them, but then it's sort of the same. I just, for some reason, I just don't read them. I do look at the rules. I definitely peruse the RPCs to ensure that it isn't anything in the criminal world. Anything dealing with real estate or contracts, I probably don't read because it made my head hurt back in law school, and it definitely makes my head hurt today. As a suggestion, and I think that this one could at least last 25 years. I think you should start a series, one article quarterly. I would reach out to every senior resident and give them the option first. But I think there should be an article or consideration of their courthouse. And I think doing a series of articles, you got 100 counties, 100 possibilities, will go into 25 years. I think our courthouses need to be celebrated for specifically some of the courtrooms. And with that, I think it would add to Heidi's request of pictures, because some of the courtrooms are just beautiful.
All right.
Other than that, that's it.
Thank
Back to
you. All right. Takia?
Hello, everyone. I'm Takia
Oh, there you
Lewis.
are. Okay.
This is my first time on the board, my first meeting. I am from the 7th District, Hertford, Berkeley, Northampton, Halifax counties. I would say that I look at the hard copy more than the digital copy. And I flip through. I don't necessarily read cover to cover. I look to see what may interest me, and then go from there. I know that I like to see things that I can relate to. And some things that I relate to would probably be more stories from people who are solo or small practitioners. A lot of things that I see, it seems like it's more big firms or more important people, for lack of a better word, lack of better words. But that's something that I would like, that I'm interested in, because like I said, I can relate to it.
Okay, thanks. By the way, one of the reasons why I was asking everybody if you're reading the hard copy or the online version is a few years ago, we were toying with the idea of not doing the hard copy anymore. And fortunately for me, since I read a hard copy, we found that most people still liked it. And that's why we decided to keep going with the hard copy. Now there is the online version, but I just wanted to see if anyone out there is reading online. So, I mean, this is all helpful, really helpful information for all of us, I think. All right, Kathleen, you're next on my list. You're muted, so. Kathleen?
Okay, I think I got it.
Yeah, you got
Sorry
it.
about that.
Yeah.
I read the hard copy, but I'm in High Point Judicial District 24 HP, which means the High Point Division of Guilford County. The rest of Guilford County, is 24. I have to confess, this is my first year on this board. It's only my second year on the State Bar Council. And I read the hard copy before I was on Bar Council when I read it, okay? I hate to say it usually went into the stack of the Lawyers Weekly newspapers because I'm definitely a hard copy person, so I still get the hard copy of that too. But certainly since I've been on council, I have been reading it more and more and very pleased and have found it interesting and informative. And I'm kind of like Bert in that, first thing I do is check the disciplinary list to be sure my name's not there, and then other people I know and so forth. So I think, that's certainly something that everybody, wants to know about, so that there's certainly some things about it that you wouldn't want to change, but I have found that a lot of the articles have been very interesting. As to whether or not I read it cover to cover, I still can't, being truthful, say that I do. I go through and pick and choose and all the things that interest me, kind of like Takia saying, things that appeal either to my area of practice or to other things that I deal with or think I need to know. And so I've been thinking about recently how I can encourage the members of my district to read it. I suspect that there are a lot of lawyers who don't read it. And I've been thinking that, one of my jobs as a representative of this area is to, try to keep the members of our district informed about things. And so I want to try to, inform them about some of the interesting articles that are in the Bar Journal and why they should be reading it, why they should be checking on it, and things of that nature. So maybe I can have a little bit of a positive influence there.
Got it. Thank you, Kathleen. I'm looking, so we've got 7 more people, and I'm looking at the time, and we've got until 2:30, but I just want to just point out that I think we can get through the next group efficiently, but I'm going to be watching it because we still need to work on our agenda. Okay, I mean, I did a little something different than I usually do by asking these extra questions, and I really do think it's a good way to start, but just watching the time, just letting you know. All right, Tamika, you're next.
Yes, Tamika Shafiq Horton from the 26th Judicial District. I read the hard copy, but I will tell you, as part of the Mecklenburg County Bar, we moved our newsletter to online. And so I will say, I think that going from hard copy, and I know not everyone will agree because lots of people like the paper, but part of it is a matter of training people, right, of what the medium is. Also, I'm now hybrid. I haven't gone into the office on a regular basis. And in that year and a half, I don't know that I've seen my State Bar Journal. So I would just say that's probably something that we need to make sure that people are getting the copy where they're actually working. I think it also would be helpful to, when we communicate, to send a link, because I think more people are, you've got to give it to them, you push it rather than having them pull it. So I think that would be helpful. And when I did read it, like I said, I think I read for, I just look for the articles that I think are interesting, what strikes me, never from cover to cover.
Okay, thanks. All right, Patty, you're next on my list.
Well, as a public member of the council, I do not go to see if my name is in the disciplinary section because I do not believe it'll ever be there, but can understand those of you that are attorneys that you might do that. I'm not sure that I've gotten my journal recently. I'll need to check on that, but I used to get it faithfully, of course, because Alan got it, and I would read the articles, and was even when I was on the disciplinary hearing commission, I was interviewed because I am a strong advocate of what the state bar does to regulate and discipline and protect the public through the Office of Counsel. So, and that was terrifying for me to be interviewed. The article was terrifying for me, but it was an honor to have been asked. When I did get the journal, I too like the more human interest stories, and think that across the board, I think lawyers may be interested in that. I like the idea of the courts, of the courthouses being featured. I like the article, the idea of members and lawyers across the state being featured. I think that's of interest, along with all of the rules and things like that are obviously in the journal. So I'm looking forward to being on this committee. This is my first year. The reason I'm on it is because I was asked to be, and I think it looks like a wonderful group to serve with. So I'm delighted to be serving.
Yeah, and it was hard for all of us to say no to Darren, right?
Yes, absolutely. You nailed it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Margaret, are you on? I'm looking for your name. There you are. Margaret Dixon is next. Margaret? I see her name. There you go.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm driving and I was having a hard time figuring out how to unmute.
That's fine.
Okay, here I am. I'm on I-95. I'm Margaret Dixon. I think I've been on the board, committee/board for a decade or so.
Mm-hmm.
First as a public member for maybe 5 or 6 years, I don't remember, and now as an advisory board member, and I've really enjoyed it. I agree that it's very important for the articles are important, but I think it's important to feel like a profession and a community. I'm a member of another totally unrelated organization, which has a newsletter, and it does have a member spotlight every month, or no, every quarter, I guess. And I think it would be great for the journal to do that. And to, I think, the big firms got a lot of attention, but to highlight the people who are not getting as much attention. And I really appreciate Jennifer including the results of that survey, which I had seen before, but kind of forgotten about. And so I think there's a lot of interesting material in that, and we're talking about a lot of it. And yes, I always read the hard copy because I get so tired of reading online. So I appreciate the hard copy.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
Margaret's been really great through the years in finding us interesting articles. And I hope you continue to do that this year.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Andrea.
Yeah. Mark, you're next.
Hi, everyone. Mark Enriquez. I am a business litigation attorney with Womble Bond Dickinson in Charlotte. This is my third year on the board. I served on the council for 9 years. I'm now off, and Darren was kind enough to appoint me as an advisory member. I've written a couple of articles for the journal, including the interview with Geeta Kapoor, which was in this most recent issue. I sometimes read it online. I used to now it's a mix of hard copy and online. I will say, before I joined the council, I'd look at the cover, maybe table of contents, and then it would go in the recycle bin. I was not a regular reader of the journal until I became a member of council and then followed it more. And I would usually just look for interesting articles. Now I find there are a lot of interesting articles, so I tend to read primarily the articles in the journal. I feel like I kind of know the grievance and rule stuff, so I don't actually read that piece of it.
All right.
And I think human interest in pictures are both great ideas. I like Heidi's idea of more photographs.
Got it. All right. Camille, you're next.
Camille Stell with the Lawyers Mutual Consulting. I am right outside of Raleigh, working from my home in Wendell. I'm an advisory member, and I've been on this committee for 3 years, as well as served as advisory members for some other committees. I'm a longtime paralegal and law firm professional, not a lawyer. I typically do a cover to cover skim when I get it, and then go back and read things of particular interest. I look at it a lot online because I do a lot of CLE programs. And so I'm always going back and looking up particularly ethics articles. And I really enjoy the ethics articles that the bar staff write. And I find them very helpful and resourceful. I share links with people that I'm talking to about particular issues.
Okay, thanks. And Camille's, like she said, she's only been on the board for like 3 years now. Is that okay? And she's another one who has a good reputation of going out and pounding the pavement looking for good articles. So thank you, Camille.
Sure.
All right, Darcy. I'm looking for Darcy. I think I saw her.
Right. I'm from Concord, no longer a practicing attorney, but doing this as a favor to Darren. I think we all are. I am a hard copy person. I like to touch and feel what I'm reading, and I'll keep mine short. I agree with what a lot of people have said about local flavor. I think Rich mentioned something similar to Our State magazine, those kind of local flavors, and the pictures always draw people in, like people have said. But yeah.
All right, thanks. Gray, you're last on my official committee list.
But not least, Gray.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Gray Wilson, I've been on the board for 3,000 years. I read hard copy because we don't have electricity where I live. My motto has always been what Heidi intoned earlier, and that is bold and wet. You got to have sizzle if you want to make this publication go. And so I support the 3 H's. You need humor, you need human interest, and horror. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, well, thanks. We have a couple other people that have joined us: Barbara Christie, Darren Jordan, Alice Mine, Tom Langen, and I think I've covered everybody. So I'd like to start on the agenda, and let me get it in front of me. Hang on. So, well, Jennifer, actually, you should introduce yourself too. Sorry.
Like I hit everybody. I'm like,
yeah,
not me. Hi, everybody. I'm excited to have all of you with us on the board and to see so many new, excited faces with good ideas and hopefully some good input. I've served on the board since 1997. That's how long I've been at the State Bar. And I do read it from cover to cover numerous times because that's my job. And I'm serving on the board because I love my job. And so I'm going to keep serving here as long as they'll have me. Hopefully you all got the agenda and you were able to read it. We've got 4 articles that are approved for this upcoming edition that I'm planning on running pending our discussion of the Wilmington 10 article. I imagine that most of these are unfamiliar to the folks that are on the board now. These were articles that were approved several months ago for publication. And if anyone wants to read copies of them before they show up in your mailbox, I'm happy to send them out to everyone. But that's what we've got approved so far this quarter. It's a little bit short, and we usually have maybe 6 or 7 articles, but we just have not had a lot come in this last quarter that was approved for publication.
Okay. One thing I want to interject at this point, I know that it so happened that we sent out an article for everybody to review before we had this initial meeting. And for those of you who were a little confused about how this process works, there's regular content in the Bar Journal that we don't really get involved with. As far as publishing the disciplinary information, the rules that have to be published for change, and some of the other articles are Jennifer just works with the state bar staff and attorneys in getting that information. So we don't usually get involved with that. We get involved for the content that is more just going out into the public and looking for articles to supplement what Jennifer's doing. So the two primary things that we do as a board is we look for content and we try to find interesting pieces, interesting people that will convert to either an interview or an article, or even articles that we've reprinted in the past if they're timely. But so we're looking for content. And then the second component of what we do is we vet that content. Once it's written, then we'll read it, and that happens online for obvious reasons. We can't wait until the next meeting. So so Jennifer will send it out online. And what we're looking for are I basically 4 different categories of responses. One is publish. The second is don't publish. The third is maybe publish, like where you might be on the fence on some of these. And the fourth is pull for discussion. I'm going to stop right here and recognize Catherine Jean, who I didn't name before. I see you're on the call. Catherine, hi.
Thank you, Andrea.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see you before, so.
It's fine.
Right.
I'm trying to go through everything anonymously.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So when you respond, you can respond very simply with those words, or you can give an explanation. Sometimes articles, it's like a no-brainer one way or the other, where we all react very similarly. Sometimes people have concerns. I just want to encourage you all to, if you want to explain your answer, explain away. Sometimes it's very healthy to get into, even if it's an email dialogue about an article and what we like and what we don't like. If you don't want to explain, that's fine too. You can just say publish, don't publish. There's no questions asked. You also have the option of just sending your feelings to Jennifer directly. You don't have to necessarily reply all. Just know that. And what Jennifer's doing is tallying these votes. And if she, if she feels like, it's going one way or the other, then she knows to start focusing on publishing something or letting the author know that we're not going to publish it. If there's a maybe, then we usually will keep working through it either online, or we might work through it at the next meeting, depending on whether it's time sensitive. And this is important too. If you want to pull it for discussion, do not hesitate to do that. Pull it for discussion means that it will be on the agenda. And that leads me to the Wilmington 10 article. That, if you all were part of these emails, you saw that everybody was overwhelmingly favorable to this article. We all really were supportive of publishing it. And it came about that there was something that warranted it being pulled for discussion, not because it wasn't a great article, but just because of maybe I believe a factual statement that was not correct. So Alan, I'm going to ask you just to share with us, since you were the one who brought it to our attention, what your concern was.
Well, I forgot to say in my introduction to the group that this is my first meeting ever, and I'm a greenhorn, tin horn, and didn't know pull it for discussion was
Right.
even an option. So I apologize for that.
Well, you would, Alan, you wouldn't have known that, and that's why I'm going over that now, because everything happened so fast. We really didn't have an opportunity to kind of go through the protocol. So
I did speak with Jennifer and spoke with Andrea, and they decided the best course was for me to maybe converse a little bit today. And thank you for that opportunity. I don't have a real problem with the article itself. I think a little context would help. I grew up in Wilmington. I was in high school when the Wilmington 10, whatever you call it, came about. I lived through it. When the trial was being handled, I was off in college. I was not a part of any of that. But people from Wilmington have a rich understanding, at least native people from Wilmington have a rich understanding about what happened. And it is the darkest spot that we have in our history. I'm fine with the article. I just think the facts are a little loose. They need to be tightened up a little bit. And there's a couple of aspects about the case that I think might need to be clarified a little bit. Is this the time for me to do that, Andrea?
I think that, well, first of all, I think Jennifer has had some conversations with the author. And I believe that, and Jennifer, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but he is going to have somebody fact check it. And I'm thinking maybe if you want to maybe send Jennifer an email of some of the particular facts that you just want to make sure are correct, then she can maybe pass that on to Bill, so we can make sure that, you know, anything that you picked up on is addressed. And just so you know, that I think Jennifer sent you, if she didn't send it to you, it's been posted on the SharePoint, but we have guidelines that we do send all of the authors. And we as a committee do not fact check. So that's not something that we automatically do, but since you brought up that there might be some inconsistencies, that's something we can certainly address with the author. Usually that's what we'll do. We'll go back to the author and we'll give them, you know, the feedback from the committee. And so when you ask me, is this something to do now? You know, if you feel like the committee needs to know specifically, that's fine. Otherwise, you're welcome just to work with Jennifer directly.
Well, I have two general points and then I'll move on.
Okay.
My career has been on the bench. I've been part of the 5th Judicial District since I started practicing law in 1978. And yes, like other districts everywhere, you have your problem cases and stuff like that, but to use the 1898 coup d'etat down here in Wilmington, which is just vile and awful, and jump forward 74 years and then call our system of justice down here systemic and systematic courthouse bigotry. I just don't think that rings true. We had a terrible case down here. Everybody is ashamed of this prosecutor. He deserves everything that he got. So I don't have any problem with the premise of the article, and I especially don't have any problem with Bill Powers' conclusions on the last page and the thesis for the article. And I can leave it there. There's some things I'd like to share with the committee about. The red flag that got me going was he identified the wrong district attorney, and I just felt like I needed to tell somebody that was inaccurate. So,
well, I mean that's legitimate. That's a legitimate concern.
And he refers to that district attorney as producing the notepad, the back of a legal pad. That legal pad, although the prosecutor used it in his jury selection, had nothing to do with the trial of the case. It had nothing to do with the Fourth Circuit overturning the case. That black legal pad was discovered in the year 2008 when a new district attorney was cleaning out some old files and was getting ready to throw it away, but decided that Tim Tyson was writing a book, and he got the box of materials and sent it off to him. And that's when the notes were discovered. And that's why the Wilmington 10 got pardoned. It had nothing to do with the trial, had nothing to do with the overturning of the convictions. And this black legal pad, it's like, it's real, but it didn't come about until 40 years after the case. And I just think there needs to be some clarification of the facts as far as stuff like that. And that's all I'll say. And I'll say to the committee, I'm late to this game as it applies to this article. If this committee feels and deems that it's in the best interest not to stop the press and go ahead, I am fine with that. I can live with it. It's my unfamiliarity that I was late to the punch, and I'll leave it at that. And
okay, thanks. Well,
Jennifer, we're not a bad part of the state down here. I just want everybody to know that. Thanks.
No, thank you for your comments. Jennifer, you spoke with the author. You want to share with the committee
Yeah, I mean, Bill has a law student going through the article and fact checking everything, and he is meeting with that student this afternoon. She's also going to be supplying endnotes, footnotes for the article. He has some references that he lists at the end of his article, but he's actually going to go through and footnote the facts and the quotes and things like that in the article. So that's something that he's working on. When I spoke to him, he hadn't yet gotten to the part of the article that referred to the district attorney, but I sent him to a link that I found online about it being Ben David and not John David. They're twin brothers and district attorneys in neighboring counties. And I think they probably often get confused, but this is not the right time to get these two mixed up. So he thanked me for that. And he said that he hadn't gotten to that part yet, but they were definitely combing through the article. And he had reached out to Ben David's office to see if he would be able to review the article. We just had a triple homicide here on Friday in Wilmington. That's where I live, by the way. And he said his office is a little bit busy right now, but he was hoping he would have a chance to review it.
Okay. Alan, my suggestion would be, and Jennifer, you can comment on whether you think this is okay. If Alan has some points that he wants you to just raise with the author, Bill. Alan, you can just send an email to Jennifer and she can pass them on to him, and then he can decide how he wants to address them or whether he wants to footnote anything. But I think as a committee, we just have to make a decision today. Is everybody okay with?
I see Tamika has her hand up. I didn't know if she wanted
Oh,
to
I'm
say
sorry.
something before.
Oh, Tamika, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Okay, no worries. So thank you. So just, you mentioned that we don't, in terms of what's published, we don't serve as fact checkers, which, I mean, I do think in an article like this that the facts are very important. Obviously, you know, folks, particularly the people in Wilmington, you know, want to make sure that this is right. We all do. So I understand that. But so I'm curious about that, because I don't know. I would think that if I'm reading the law journal and something is published in it, and I haven't read it in a long time, so I don't know if there's a disclaimer, you know, that says that we haven't fact checked. But I just question that.
Yeah, that's a good question. We do have a disclaimer, and Jennifer, I'll let you. Why don't you explain, since you can probably give more detail than I do as far as how we handle this with the authors.
I would just say that when we receive articles, if they're academic, they're not just fluff pieces. They're generally heavily footnoted or endnoted. And I take the author at their word that they are competent and that they wouldn't be submitting something to us unless they have done their due diligence. So, I mean, we don't have a staff of fact checkers. We do have a notice at the beginning of the journal that says the opinions expressed by authors are not the opinions of the State Bar, but we don't go into fact checking. And I think
Patty had a question.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's not a question, but it's a comment that I'm really concerned too about the fact that we don't have a fact check on some of these things, that we're publishing things, and it particularly because it's a legal journal that we you know, fortunately Alan caught some things that he wants to have checked as facts. But that's a little bit disturbing to me, that we would publish an article that no one that is truly familiar with whatever is being published has not reviewed it for the facts. And so I don't know what this committee can do or what we need to say. It just, to me, is a little bit concerning. Let's just put concerning is the word.
Okay, Darren, why don't you join us right now? I see your hand up.
Yeah. So I first learned about this maybe 3 or 4 days ago. So I called Judge Cobb and talked to him about his concerns, and also talked to Jennifer, but I've also talked to Bill Powers, and I think this will all resolve itself and we'll have a good article. Bill has invited me to share his contact information with Judge Cobb. He welcomes the opportunity to ask him about his what his concerns are about the article. I just shared that with Judge Cobb. I think that this will all work out with a phone call between Bill and Judge Cobb, so Judge Cobb can note what his concerns are about some of the things in the article. And I think Judge Cobb has told me that, look, if the article goes the way it is, as long as there's some factual corrections like this DA, he's fine with the article. And I think Bill is amenable to making any changes or corrections that he thinks are, appropriate based on his conversation. So I would just, I wouldn't get too concerned about this. I do have a concern, Patty and Tamika. I think there is some issue, especially when we're having these articles. We need to mandate that they be fact checked somehow. I don't know that our committee has the bandwidth to do that, but we do need to make sure that that happens. I think for purposes of this article, I think it'll all work out.
Okay.
That's my positive spin on it.
Okay, just to remind you that the guidelines that are sent to the authors do express that we trust that they are updated and accurate. So I think because of the fact that we're not in a position to hire anybody to do the fact checking, we just have to rely on that. Jennifer, we could consider maybe with the disclaimer, just to say the opinions and facts. I mean, if we want to integrate that, we can consider that, maybe put that on the next agenda. So we can
And I
look
think
into
Bill,
that.
as a friend of Bill Powers, I mean, he wanted everybody to know that, his intention before this goes to publication was to have it fact checked, even before this came up.
Okay.
I mean, there were emails between he and Jennifer about it needing to, he needing to fact check it. So he wants everybody to know that he didn't send this in and just expect it to be published. He intended to do some fact checking before that happens. So
Yeah, I mentioned to him when I saw the first draft, I said, you need to footnote these quotes and these citations. And I got the feeling that after I talked to Alan about his concerns and I talked to Bill, I had the feeling that he was already on the fact checking. So I think it's all just sort of coming full circle at this point.
Okay. All right. So we had, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, one more question. Is historically has the journal been called to task for articles that have not been fact checked?
I don't think
great.
Not since I've been on the journal or the board. Yeah.
Not since I've been here, and I was here 2 years before the journal came into print.
Well, that's good. Thank you. That's reassuring in and of itself, because I would hate to put a disclaimer that we don't fact check. I think that we would publish something as a legal journal that's not been fact checked. So that's reassuring. Thank you.
All right. Alan, you wanted to say something? Yeah.
What type of time schedule are we on? Am I to expect something from him soon? Are we trying to get this wrapped up quickly? Am I able to talk to anybody else about helping me fact check this who was here during the trial themselves?
Well, I think the answer is we're on a tight time schedule. Jennifer can respond to how much time there is in between now and when she has to go to press. I think what I'd like to do is I would like to take a vote just to see if everybody on the committee still feels the same way about publishing it for this publication. And with the caveat that it will be fact checked by the author. So Peter, can you do a vote?
Yeah, I can do a poll.
All right, let's go ahead and do a vote for that.
So I mean, well, what's is there a motion to or
we can do it that way. We don't usually do motions like this. We're a little more informal. I'm happy to do a motion. Does I'm happy to.
I don't need a motion. I just want to clarify what we're voting on specifically.
On whether this would go to, we would stick with our original vote that this will be published for the spring 2022 edition. With the understanding that before it's published, it will be fact checked by the author.
And I'm a little uncomfortable just the author doing it now at this point, but I would, if Alan can look at it and or you, Andrea, and speak for the committee as a whole, I would feel better about that.
I think we have to keep in mind that this isn't the committee's article. This is Bill's article, and it's flavored with Bill's impressions and thoughts and his telling of a story. And obviously it has to be factual, but it's not the work of the committee. It's the work of the author. So I think we have to keep that in mind.
And I agree with you, but we've also approved it as a committee. So we,
Okay.
are a little bit responsible.
So would anybody like to make a motion? I'm going to withdraw what I said earlier as far as doing this informally. I'm going to go ahead and ask if anybody would like to make a motion on this article.
I move that the article be published for the spring 22 edition of the State Bar Journal.
Okay. Do
I
I
second
have
that.
Okay. All right, Peter, let's vote on that. Or I feel like if anybody wants to say anything more, if there's any more discussion, this is the time before we vote. Okay, Peter. Peter, are you there?
Yes. Yep.
Can you put up a voting?
Yep, I did. I got the poll up. Since you're a co-host, I don't know that you see it or you don't vote, but
okay.
the results are out of 10 votes, it's 8-2 yes to the motion.
Okay, so the motion passes. All right. Alan, I would suggest that you can get up with Jennifer and just see what input you can give her to pass on to the author, okay? Or you can get up with him yourself directly. All right?
Mhm.
Bill's probably going to call Judge Cobb, so
Okay.
I mean he's amenable to making any changes that need to be changed.
Okay.
So I think we're going to get a good product. I don't think anybody needs to jump off the building.
All right. All right. All right.
I just want to go on the record. I'm not against this article. I want y'all to know that. I'm not against it at all. Thank you.
So noted. We have a half hour left, and on the agenda, the next section is where we go through articles, potential articles that we've discussed with the board at the previous meetings, just to update on where we are. So because we only have a half hour, I'm going to try to not rush people, but just be cognizant, or ask everyone to be cognizant of the time, to keep it as brief as possible. And I'm the first one, so looking at proposed articles, I'll give you an update on the ones that I've discussed before. Judge McGee, on that one, I said I would ask her if she would write something on that opinion that she wrote on the LGBT case. And I did ask her, and she does not wish to write an article on that. She said it was a very difficult opinion, and she's happy to just leave it at that. So that we can take off the list, Jennifer. But she did volunteer to write an article. Well, two things. Jennifer, I don't think you have it here. There was a second article, or an article that she volunteered to write, and I don't have the topic right now. Did you have that handy?
I thought it was just the three judges that she wanted to do.
There were two articles. I mean, so the three judges was one, but there was another one, and I'm sorry, I just don't have it.
It's about the Women's Judicial Committee or something like that.
Yeah. Anyway, that's not something that is time sensitive, so I will get the topic for that. She volunteered to write a piece on something else, but I don't remember what it was. But to the next point, there's this idea that I was developing with her that would involve a podcast and an article, and that is having three women such as herself, Lillian Jordan, who was a judge, a longstanding judge, and she also was a recipient, by the way, of the John B. McMillan Award, and Sarah Parker. They're all three retired. And so the thought was to have an interview with these three women about their careers. I mean, they retired. They were from a generation where, they were trying to juggle, just like we all of us do, try to juggle being lawyers and parents, and in their case, in a generation where there weren't a lot of women lawyers, they all had stellar careers, and just wanting to think about interviewing them because the fact that they're all retired, and it's a generation that's kind of coming to an end at this point. And then complementing that with Mark doing a podcast with the three women. So that's my pitch. And Linda said that she was willing to spearhead that. So unless anybody has any questions or issues, I'll just keep moving forward with trying to develop that. Okay. I see a couple thumbs up. If you guys can do that, that would be helpful. All right. All right. Then the other thing I had talked about was trying to get an article on the update on the opioid settlements that are in the process of occurring throughout the state of North Carolina and other states as well. We had the opioid summit several years ago when Gray was president, which was a very, it was a success, to say the least. And it was coupled with a couple opioid articles that we had in the State Bar Journal. And now, since then, there have been lawsuits against the pharmaceutical companies on the opioids that have been filed by counties and governmental entities to try to get some of the money back that they lost as a result of this crisis. And there's been a class action settlement, and the governmental entities as well as the Attorney General's office is working right now on that settlement. So my suggestion was to see if we could get somebody to write an article, maybe from the Attorney General's office, about the settlement and how it's going to impact the counties. So
There's
All
an
right.
excellent, there's an excellent series, ABA Experience. It's for senior attorneys that are in this organization, but nearly this entire magazine is devoted to the opioid summits they've had. They've had two of the ABA that I know of, and it has, you talked about experience in other states. It really has all the graphics in it. It's marvelous assembly of articles just about the opioid epidemic.
So is there anybody on this committee that is willing to approach somebody at the Attorney General's office to see if they would be willing to write an article, or maybe Gray, that the publication that you're talking about, if we could pull something from there, I don't know, just as an update on what's going on in the state?
Yeah, might be able to do that. Just get permission to publish. And with the AG's office, since Josh and his wife were both speakers at the opioid summit that we held, I would say someone should approach, one or both of them about doing an article. And of course, then Josh can get somebody there to write it for him.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Somebody just call Josh.
Yes.
Is anybody willing to do that? Does anybody want to volunteer? Oh. All right.
I don't know him, so I mean, other than
I think the person to call would be his wife. Probably she's probably more accessible, and like Grace said, she participated in our summit. Okay.
Andrea, one of my partners is good friends with the Steins. So I'll be happy to at least take the first crack at it.
Okay. Thank you, Heidi.
Well, who contacted them to speak at the opioid summit, Gray?
I can't recall, but I bet Alice does.
Well, Marcy was in charge. He was the chair of that committee. So maybe Marcy has his wife's contact information. That's another angle. All right. All right. So that takes care of, well, actually, I have one more I'm going to pitch real quickly. So I came across a book I'm going to send you guys a few pages of these. It's called Letters of a Lawyer. I don't know if you can see it. Letters of a Lawyer to His Son. Can you see that? It's an old book that I found in our library, and it was written in 1956 by a father to his son who was getting ready to graduate from law school. And he wrote a series of letters, like it looks like 20 letters ish. And what I'm going to do, we don't need to talk about it too much, but I just want to give you the heads up that if we can get permission from West Publishing, which is now Reuters, to republish this, I'm hoping it's 1956, so surely they won't mind. But anyway, I'm going to just copy one letter, and then I'll have Jennifer send it out to everybody. And you just need to read it, and you can say yes or no. No feelings hurt if you don't want to pursue this. But I just think these letters are really beautiful, and it shows that the practice of law on some level hasn't changed since 1956. So anyway, so just look out for that. And that's all I had. Camille, you're next on the list.
So the Regulatory Study Subcommittee, as Mark mentioned at the top of the call, is winding down their work with a report that Mark and Brian Oaten authored on behalf of the subcommittee. And they'll be presenting it today at issues and other times, perhaps during the week. And so I think, my hope is that we could get some articles out of that, and perhaps 3, maybe one about the work of the subcommittee, one about each of the recommendations that we were making for limited license professionals and regulatory sandbox. And I would suggest Jeff Kelly for the regulatory sandbox. He was an advisory member of the subcommittee. I'd suggest Mark and Brian to write the article from the committee if they were interested in doing that, or maybe even kind of an executive summary of their report. And then there's a group of 5 paralegals who created the Justice for All project, which is a limited licensing model. And I think they'll be willing to work on that. And I'd also thought about kind of doing it in an interview format, and maybe I would interview them.
Okay. All right.
So
thanks, Camille. So just for purposes of the new members, when we go through these, we're not really voting on whether to publish the articles. We're just developing ideas and trying to pursue these different ideas to see if we can actually get an article out of it. So it's more of an update as opposed to voting on it. However, if somebody is raising or brings up an idea that you have a particular problem with, raise your hand and jump in and let us know. Because if we don't have any issues, we're just going to keep letting the member pursue it. All right. Gray, you're next. This is the Supreme Court Museum.
Yes, I have visited with several esteemed organizations, including this one, about getting some sort of buy-in for this project. And so far, there's been absolutely no interest whatsoever from any quarter, except from our former counselor, Judge Rader. And so because there's so little interest in it, I'm satisfied it's a brilliant idea and I intend to pursue it.
Okay, thanks. Heidi?
Okay, quickly, Jennifer, you can take Justice Witchard off the list. He's not interested. But on the integrated case management system, that's kind of a big deal, obviously, e-filing. So I did go over to the AOC a week ago, maybe, and had about an 1.5 hour long meeting with them to get the full update on that. And I am willing to put together an article based on the information that I learned from that. Jennifer was hoping we might be able to get it done by March. That is probably not happening, Jennifer. But I don't think it kills the timeline. Like, I think the e-filing article needs to be timely in terms of the rollout of that particular system. So if we do it for June, Jennifer, I don't think it's catastrophic. I mean, that's when basically the pilot counties are hopefully getting their rollout started. So I still think the June edition would be timely. So that would be my goal, because I just can't get it done by this week for March.
Okay.
And I reached out to my partner about Josh, and I'll report back.
Okay, great. Margaret?
Yes, excuse me, the redistricting has been such a mess and continues to be a mess in the sense that it's, excuse me, I'm sorry, I've got a cold. They're pushing back the primaries because they're not sure they'll have the districts drawn. I think we just have to wait until it's this round of redistricting is over before we write anything about gerrymandering. Not that it's not important, but we're too much in the thick of it, I think.
Yeah. So we'll just keep it on
But I'm
the
happy
list.
to keep watching that. And,
Yeah.
yes, and I'm in touch with both Tom and Mary Wills, so we can do it. I just don't think now's the right moment.
Okay. So like Margaret, we'll just keep it on the list and just check in quarterly with you on this.
I think that's great, and they'll have to get it done in a couple of months, but we're just in the middle of it.
Okay, I get it. So next was Stephen, and I think that was Steve Robertson.
Yeah, I'm going to follow up with him on those.
Okay. All right. So that's all the articles that we've talked about in the past. Now I'm just looking at the clock, trying to be respectful of everybody's time. We've got 15 minutes left. And so Jennifer and I want to kind of pitch the idea of trying to figure out how we can get you and everybody out there to start pounding the pavement, looking for ideas and content. And Jennifer, I'll let you speak a little bit to that.
Well, I would say, since we literally only have 15 minutes left, and we need to get some ideas going and some authors writing, maybe if somebody has an idea for an article, we start with that. And then with time left over, or maybe with our next meeting or in an email, we can discuss maybe people's strengths where they think they could focus their attention. So I would encourage anyone that has thought. I've encouraged you to put your thinking caps on. People have mentioned some ideas of the type of articles they would like to see. So if you have someone in mind that you think would be a good subject for an article, I mean, in the past, we've done an article about an attorney that started an animal rescue. We have done an article about an attorney that was into falconry. I mean, we can cover all kinds of, if there's somebody who is involved in Little League, who does some kind of volunteer work that you think is just extraordinary and special and amazing, and it should be highlighted. I want to hear about all of it. So those are just some ideas, but I would love to hear what you guys have thought of.
Does anybody have any ideas off the top of their head right now based on the, just the conversations that we've had, like earlier, for example?
Or anything, just anything.
Yeah, just
I just need anything.
Like a member, featuring a member. Okay, so let's go through.
We got hands up, so let's go.
Yeah, okay. Mark?
I know, I saw Alan's hand too. I would love to see an article talking about the new remote hybrid work environment. I think it's impacting large firms, small firms, everyone. The whole work environment has changed. And I think there's pluses and minuses, in terms of flexibility, it's great, but mentoring and counseling, I think they're real challenges. I know it's something we talk about a lot at our firm, but I've talked to small firm lawyers with similar issues about what does this mean? And it's not just a pandemic phenomenon. I think the way lawyers work has fundamentally changed. And I think an article looking at what that means for our profession would be a great article. I don't have an author in mind, but that's an article I'd be excited to read about in the journal. And I think it applies to all our lawyers.
I always wonder if Laura Marr, because she consults with a lot of attorneys and firms and has probably got a lot of clients who are dealing with these issues and how to grapple with them with work-life balance. And she does a lot on that. And I'm wondering if she could maybe do a feature article. That would be something in her wheelhouse.
So Jennifer, if you just, and Alan, I saw your hand up, so I'll get to you in a minute. So what I would like to propose is to take Mark's idea and then see if we can get two perspectives, one from the bigger firms and one from a smaller firm. And if you could start with Laura to see if she has any recommendations on attorneys that might be willing to do it. Mark, maybe, I mean, here's what we need, folks. We need ideas coupled with a name or a lead on who might do it or who's willing to find somebody to do it. So it's not just brainstorming on articles. We need you guys to be thinking about who can I call to see if they're willing to write something.
Not that if you have an idea, you have to also know who the author is, because we can talk about that here. A lot of people have lots of contacts throughout the state, Camille. And so don't feel like you can't offer up a topic just because you have no idea who could possibly write it. We can think about that.
Correct. And if then, as you hear these topics, if anybody can give us a lead, that would be great. You know, if you have a personal connection with somebody, that's usually the best. But Jennifer has followed up on leads and other people have volunteered to follow up. So anyway, so yeah, let's put that on the list. And if anybody has any ideas for either a big firm or a small town lawyer to write, just if you can't think of anybody right now, you can certainly email Jennifer. Alan, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, Mark said something about an interview with an author. I'll just throw out John Grisham lives in Chapel Hill.
Okay.
Oh, Alan.
I've been wanting to do an interview or get something with John for years, and I just haven't found, with that saying 6 degrees of separation, I haven't found anybody yet that has enough of a connection. Do you? Do you know?
No, I certainly don't, but I might know somebody that does.
Okay, well, if
you work on that, because I think I took it off of the agenda last quarter after having it on for at least 3 years.
I just
never found anyone.
Anybody. Yeah,
we tried.
He probably got 8 houses, but he's particularly in Chapel Hill during basketball season.
Yeah,
and that's now. So I'll see if I can find anything.
Well, you will get a gold star.
Alan, this is Margaret Dixon. We tried and tried. You can't even Google and find a publicist for him. He is very insulated. His daughter lives in Raleigh, and is friends with people my children's age, and nobody will ask them. Nobody. I've even asked my own children. They won't do it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'm barking up a tree, I guess.
No, it's worth a shot.
If you don't, it's worth a shot. If you don't ask, you don't know. So, okay. All right. Any other thoughts, ideas?
Bert had one in the chat. Bert had one on the chat about update from maybe the Board of Law Examiners about how the UBE is going.
Okay. Does anybody have a connection with the Board of Law Examiners? Do we have any council members that are on the board?
No.
I email Lee, so I can email Lee.
Okay. I think, did Bert also have a suggestion about maybe interviewing some of the new U.S. attorneys? There's two spotlight. I'm looking at his notes. He said,
Bert.
Is Bert on, or did he leave?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, what are your thoughts about that?
Oh, yeah, I just think that we have 3 new U.S. attorneys in the middle, west, and eastern districts. And I just thought that if we're going to do a member spotlight, that would be kind of neat. So,
does anybody have any thoughts on who can write an article about that?
Oh, I would ask somebody in their office. So, I mean, I can reach out to someone in the West, and I might be able to reach out to Easley Jr. So I will. I'll make some phone calls.
Okay, that would be great.
I can reach out to the Middle District. That's my former district.
Okay.
May want to, we've got a new public defender's office in North Carolina in Rutherford and Cleveland County. And it may be that I could talk to Mary Pollard about talking about the history of the public defender's offices. And I don't know if we've had anything like that, but maybe her visions about the future of indigent defense within the state of North Carolina, because I know that she's got some ideas, and she might not be ready to present them right now, but I do know that she's working on an 8-year plan, and that includes a rollout of public defenders offices statewide. So
Yeah, like our district doesn't have public defenders.
yeah.
So I've always wondered why that is, but maybe it's not enough volume.
Certainly not because of the volume of cases.
All right. Well, Jennifer, you got that?
Yep.
Put it on the list.
Yes.
Okay.
I had one idea from an email that I got this morning from the NCAOC. They do a podcast and all things judicial, and I guess it is Human Trafficking Month. And so it was hosted by the chair of the North Carolina Human Trafficking Commission, Jennifer Haywood, and she spoke to the Cumberland County Assistant District Attorney, as well as the coordinator of Cumberland County's Worth Court program, which takes victims of human trafficking and tries to rehabilitate rather than prosecute. And I just thought it was a fascinating interview about human trafficking and the fact that it's not something that just happens in New York and Chicago. I mean, it happens in Brunswick County, and it happens, all across our state. And I think people are not always aware of it. And they do get referrals to their court from attorneys. So I think it might be something just to highlight that happens in our system that impacts our legal system. And it was a good interview. And I thought if they could just take that interview and put it into written form, it would be something we could publish in the journal. We ran an article about human trafficking maybe 12 years ago or so. We had somebody who worked in the AG's office that coordinated that, but it's been a long time. And I thought it was fascinating at the time, and it's still interesting.
So on a situation like that, where we can actually listen to the podcast, Jennifer, I think it's a great idea. It's definitely timely. Do you want to ask, should we just go ahead and listen to the podcast and just let you know whether we say publish or not publish? Because
I'll just work on getting the article, and then I'll submit it.
Okay.
It's a 37-minute podcast. Y'all don't need to have to sit there and listen to the whole thing. So I'll work on getting an article if it sounds like something y'all are interested in. Mm-hmm. And then you can review it and give it the thumbs up or thumbs down.
Most of those cases are going through federal court, though. The human trafficking, the state courts don't have the bandwidth to handle them, so they go through federal court. No disrespect for Mecklenburg County, Tamika, but that seems to be a den of thieves down there with human trafficking cases. I'm handling one down there in the Western District right now, and it's horrible. It's the worst case I've handled murder cases my entire career. This is the worst case I've ever handled. It's horrible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awful.
And the thing about human trafficking too is if we're going to go down this route of creating an article or writing an article, we need to step back to its basic function of what human trafficking is. Because I'm going to be very candid. When I was on a commission a few years ago, when I thought of human trafficking, I thought of lethal weapon 3 or transporter. I thought of folks on a ship being transported in barrels. Human trafficking, a lot of people, okay? But then the folks in the know sat me down and sat a lot of us down and said, no, human trafficking is just having one person out there soliciting sex on behalf of another individual. Mm-hmm. So it would be what we would consider back in our day as a pimp and his folks. And folks don't think that's human trafficking. And so when I say folks, I'm talking about the rank and file because Hollywood has sort of skewed it somewhat or a lot.
Yeah.
So anyway, just a thought.
I totally agree with you, Bert. And I think there's definitely an educational component because people just don't understand what it is. And that's actually the very first question that was asked and answered in the interview. And I mean, everything from migrant farm workers to, I mean, just having anyone who's an indentured worker. People come over and they get their passports taken and they have nowhere to go and no resources. So it's interesting. I think, Bert, you're right. I think a lot of people just don't quite understand what the issue is and what it is.
Okay. I'm looking at time. It's 2:30. Alan, I just have a quick wrap up, but Alan, if you want to go quickly, I think we can squeeze you in.
Yeah, I just want to, I have to, I'm the host of the issues committee. So for me to be able to open that up, I've got to end this one. So we've got to,
next time.
Yeah. All right. So to wrap it up, I'm just going to let you know real quickly, Julie Bell, who is a counselor, she is going to be writing an article on courtroom attire. She let me know that she hasn't finished it yet, but Jennifer, you can keep that on your radar. And lastly, I just want to thank everybody for your comments and input today. We